organization from entering into any New York State commercial real estate acquisition for 5 years. We are barring Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization from applying for any loans from any financial institution registered with the New York Department of Financial Services for 5 years. We are requiring Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization to disgorge the financial benefits obtained through the persistent fraudulent practices, an estimated, a baseline at the minimum of $250 million, and to appoint an independent monitor at the Trump Organization to oversee compliance, financial reporting, evaluations, and disclosures to lenders, insurers, and tax authorities for no less than 5 years. We are requiring the Trump Organization to prepare on an annual basis for the next 5 years a GAAP, a generally accepted accounting practices compliant audited statement of financial condition showing Mr. Trump's net worth to be distributed to all the recipients of his prior statements of financial condition. To replace the current trustees of the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust with new independent trustees, or require similar independent governance if a new trust is created, and to permanently bar Alan Weisselberg and Jeffrey McConney from serving in the financial control of any New York corporation. And lastly, to cancel any certificate filed under and by virtue of the provisions of Section 130 of the General Business Law for the corporate entities named as defendants and any other entity controlled by or beneficially owned by Donald Trump, which participated in or benefited from the ongoing financial scheme. In other words, permanently prohibit any of these companies from doing business in the state of New York. I want to be clear. White-collar financial crime is not a victimless crime. When the well-connected break the law to take in more money that they are entitled to, it reduces resources to working people, to regular people, to small businesses, and to all taxpayers. Everyday people cannot lie to a bank about how much money they have in order to get a favorable loan to buy a home or to send their kid to college. And if they did, the government would throw the book at them. Why should this be any different? It is a tale of two justice systems, one for everyday working people and one for the elite, the rich and the powerful. Mr. Trump and his allies may say that these penalties are too harsh or that this is part of a witch hunt. I will remind everyone that this investigation only started after Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, testified before Congress and shed light on this misconduct. And the remedies are consistent with what we have sought for other businesses that committed the same misconduct. This investigation revealed that Donald Trump engaged in years of illegal conduct to inflate his net worth, to deceive banks and the people of the great state of New York. Claiming you have money that you do not have does not amount to the art of the deal. It's the art of the steal. And there cannot be different rules for different people in this country or in this state. And former presidents are no different. And so today we are making good on that promise, on our commitment, because no one is above the law. And I would like for them to stand. This investigation was led by Senior Enforcement Counsel Kevin Wallace, Senior Counsel Andrew Amer, Assistant Attorney General Colleen Faherty, Assistant Attorney General Alex Finkelstein, Assistant Attorney General Will Handley, Assistant Attorney General Stephanie Torre, Assistant Attorney General Austin Thompson, Special Counsel to the Solicitor General Eric Herron, Enforcement Section Chief Louis Solomon, Legal Support Analyst Samantha Stern. Additional support was provided by a data analyst, Anusha Chowdhury, Senior Data Analyst, Akram Hashanoff, Data Scientist, Chun Soo Song, Deputy Director of Research and Analytics, Megan Thorsfeld. Director of Research and Analytics, Jonathan Werberg, as well as Information Technology Specialist, Yu-Sing Chin, and Information Technology Specialist, Paige Puldoni. Information Technology Specialist, John Roach. Appellate support was provided by Deputy Solicitor General Judy Vale, Assistant Solicitor General Eric Del Pozo, all under the oversight of First Deputy Attorney General Jennifer Levy. I thank you for your service. You may have a seat. Now, I know that I've provided you with a lot of numbers, a lot of property. Members of the team will be available to answer any specific questions, but at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Delaney, who's going to lead the Q&A on-topic questions. Thank you. Delaney?
Yes, Attorney General. Sorry, Jonathan Deans with NBC.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, you say that there was criminality involved here. I was wondering if you've referred this to the Manhattan DA as well. You've been part of that investigation. And should we expect to see state charges out of the Manhattan DA's office?
As you know, there was a parallel criminal investigation being conducted by the District Attorney of Manhattan. And we are cooperating with the Manhattan District Attorney, and any information that he is requesting, we will submit it to his office. We cooperate with any law enforcement agency, including but not limited to the Manhattan DA. Thank you.
Adam Reese, NBC. You said that his career and his empire was basically a sham and smoke and mirrors. Can you just describe, are you trying to shut him down, and where do we go from here?
So again, this investigation has to do with his statements of financial condition over a period of 2011 to 2021. And this is an attempt to seek redress for the taxpayers of the great state of New York, for individuals in the great state of New York. And he could reconstruct, reorganize a number of these corporations. But the relief that we are seeking from this judge is, again, for him to reform his practices in the state of New York and to prohibit him from engaging in any real estate commercial transactions in the state of New York going forward.
Ms. James.
As you note these, I apologize, Henry Rossoff with Pix 11. As you note, these allegations are at least 3 years old. That's the origin of your investigation. The DOJ and IRS have had access to the same starting points that you did. With these referrals, do you hope to force their hand into action?
It's not a question of forcing their hands. It's a question of presenting to them evidence, which we believe suggests illegality and suggests that he was engaging in a number of schemes to benefit himself, his corporation, and his family. And so we will present this information to the District Attorney of New York if he requested, as well as the Southern District of New York and the IRS, based on the allegations that we uncovered, based on the evidence that we uncovered.
Scannella, CNN.
Hi.
Are you willing to settle with the Trump Organization? And if so, what terms would be appropriate and favorable for you that you would agree to settle?
I will not negotiate in public. And as you know, has been publicly reported, we rejected settlement offers that they submitted, and our doors are always open.
Dana, Washington Post. It's been suggested by Mr. Trump and his advocates that they were engaging in standard practices. This is standard in a real estate business. How is what they were doing different from standard practice here? And can you comment on that defense?
So this, this conduct cannot be brushed aside and dismissed as some sort of good faith mistake. The statements of financial condition were greatly exaggerated, grossly inflated, objectively false, and therefore fraudulent and illegal. And as a result of that, we are seeking relief, and Mr. Trump, the Trump Organization, his family, they should all be held accountable. And that is the purpose of this litigation that we are filing today, in addition to referring the criminal conduct to the Southern District of New York, as well as the IRS. No one, my friend, is above the law.
Marcia Kramer from CBS, Madam Attorney General. I have two-part question. Number one, Is there anything to prevent Mr. Trump from establishing his corporations, even for the properties in New York, in another state, since he is now become a legal resident of Florida? And secondly, you called it, Donald Trump Jr. has already started tweeting that this, quote, the Democratic witch hunt has begun. If you'd like to respond to that as well.
So with regards to the name calling, as you know, they've basically have attempted to delay this investigation, and two judges have dismissed those claims that this was a political witch hunt. So I give no credence to those to the names that he has referred to me. And two, Mr. Trump, the Trump organization, as well as his family, will still have to deal with this complaint. They will still have to respond. They will still have to respond to the allegations therein. And so if in fact he decided to move to Florida, the reality is he still has to deal with the great state of New York and respond to the complaint.
He cannot, establish another corporation, put these properties in a corporation that he incorporates in another state.
No, he
Could be any
cannot.
state other than.
Correct. These corporations are currently incorporated in the state of New York. Some are incorporated in Delaware, but they do business in the state of New York. And he cannot just pick up and those same corporations can be moved to Florida. No. And again, Marcia, just to put a finer point on that, we are attempting, as part of our relief, to dissolve these corporations.
Laura Italiano from Insider. In practical terms, much of former President Trump's biggest money-generating properties are in Manhattan, in New York State. Would he, if this relief is granted by the judge down the road, would he be able to collect rents, to obtain loans on the properties? What precise, what practical implications to sell the properties should he want to? Is the corporation that's filed in New York necessary for him to do those things?
So again, most of the corporations have been incorporated in the state of New York. There are some that have been incorporated in Delaware, but they continue to do business in the state of New York. We are permanently barring Mr. Trump and his family members from serving as an officer or director in any entity in the state of New York. We are barring him from entering into any commercial real estate transactions for 5 years. We are barring Mr. Trump and the organization from applying for any loans for 5 years, just for 5 years, requiring him to repay the financial benefits of $250 million, placing a monitor over these corporations, requiring him to file a GAAP compliant statement of financial condition, replacing the trustees, if in fact he creates a new trustee, and permanently barring Alan Weisselberg and Jeffrey McConney, and canceling his certificate of incorporations for those corporations that we discussed. Yes.
Follow-up. Are these relief that a judge would have to approve?
Yes.
So these things aren't happening at the moment.
Correct.
But this is what will be litigated now down the line.
Correct. And it's important also to understand that Mr. Trump will continue to have a financial interest in a lot of these corporations. And so if he decides to, at some point in time, sell them, or if he decides to restructure them, again, this is all part of the relief that we are seeking. I said to Marcia that we're seeking to dissolve them. That was incorrect. We're not seeking to dissolve them. He still has a financial interest in these businesses and corporation.
He still owns them.
Correct.
However, to collect rent, to obtain a loan based on them as collateral, to sell the property, maybe I'm missing some other practical things. If approved by a judge down the road, these are things he would not be able to do with those properties.
Correct. For the next 5 years.
We're gonna take 2 more questions.
Hi, Josh Gerstein with Politico.
Yeah.
Madam Attorney General, can you explain something about how the former president, you allege he did this for at least a decade or more than a decade. How did he get away with what you're saying he got away with for such a long period of time? A lot of these transactions are with some of the largest financial institutions and insurance companies in the state of New York. Do they just not check anything that people tell them, or they presumed it was true, or did they have hints that these things were not true that they were being told? And what does it tell you about those institutions that they would take his word for it?
So let me just say, with respect to Mazars indicated on the statement of financial condition that they did not certify and they did not audit these statements. That does not absolve Mr. Trump of submitting accurate information. Two, with respect to Cushman Wakefield, there is an ongoing investigation into Cushman Wakefield. And then lastly, with respect to Deutsche Bank, we're in conversations with Deutsche Bank. They have been cooperating with our office.
Like this lawsuit is going to be resolved quickly, or do you feel like this is going to be a drawn out process?
So that's entirely up to the judge. That's good, okay. I thank you all for coming, and if there's any specific questions, I believe my members of the team will answer your questions. Thank you.